This task involves constructing a procedure, so let's set up a procedure first of all. I'm going to mark it as private static, and you don't need to worry about the meaning of those two words at GCSE level. Since this is a procedure, this subprogram will not return anything. So in Java, we mark the return type as void. Let's call it get price so that we know what the price will be. Now, the number of flowers is going to have to be given as a parameter. So let's give it as an integer parameter in this case. So the task requires us to check that the input, the parameter value, the argument, has been fed in as a positive number. So there are a couple of eventualities that could happen here. The first thing is that if the number of flowers is actually below 0, then we'll probably want to output some sort of an error message. Now, you can use system.out.println or even change it to system.error.println, and you just say negative values are invalid, or something like that, or it can be a number of flowers. And at that point, you will want to get out of the procedure, so you can just use the keyword return just on its own, and that pulls the trapdoor and gets you out of the procedure. Now, it's giving me a yellow warning here just saying that it's unnecessary, which is fair enough. Okay, so next we're going to say if the flowers is exactly equal to 0, then that's not a positive number either. 0 is defined as being neither positive nor negative. So in this case, same idea. I'm going to go here and I'm going to say that 0 values are invalid, or I'll just say no flowers have been bought or something. That would probably be a better contextual statement. You know, it actually shows that I'm thinking about the problem. No flowers have been bought. Alright, now if we've managed to get through both of those if statements and get false results for both of the Boolean expressions here and here, then we can be convinced that moving forward we are definitely dealing with a positive number. Now, it would be outside of the scope of the task to start looking at whether it is a real number or whether the user has accidentally sent in the wrong kind of data type, but Java is going to pick that up anyway, so it'll have some sort of a mismatch and it will fail to call the procedure. So I'm happy enough just to park that and not address that as an explicit kind of component of my task solution. So let's now get on with the idea of calculating the cost. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the kind of basket of flowers that the customer has presented on the counter and say, okay, how many bunches can we form? How many times can we form a bundle of 6? Well, this is kind of a multiplication/division problem. So what we're going to do is set up an integer variable called bunches. And what we'll do is we'll take the number of flowers, we'll divide it by 6, and we'll see how many times can the number 6 fit into this number. So to do that, we're going to use the division operation, which is just a / where you put an integer on the left and an integer on the right. And just as a wee note, int divided by int means you're going to be using div in this case. So we are going to get the quotient part only. Okay, the quotient only in this case. Similarly then, how many loose flowers you have is going to be, you're going to take the number of flowers originally and you're going to do the mod operator and divide by 6. So this means that you're going to get the remainder only. And this will tell you that after you've organized all of the possible bunches of 6 from the customer's basket of flowers, how many are left over. So this will tell us the number of bunches that can be formed, and this will tell us how many flowers will be left over loose. Let's just quickly check this in our mind. Let's say, for instance, that we were to buy 17 flowers. If you take the number 17 and you divide it by 6, you know that you can get 2 times 6 would give you 12, and that would leave 5 left over, which isn't enough to form a third bunch. So the answer in this case would be 2. You can have 2 bunches. But the 5 that are left over represent the remainder of the division. So 17 divided by 6 is 2 remainder 5. So the number of bunches is 2 bunches, and the number of loose flowers left over is 5. Now that we know the number of bunches and we know the number of loose flowers that leaves behind, we can now proceed to calculate the overall cost of the order. So let's create an integer variable called cost, and let's take the number of bunches of flowers that the customer has bought and multiply it by £16 per bunch. Then let's take the number of loose flowers that have been bought and multiply that by £3 per stem, per loose flower. Finally, we'll want to do some sort of a print statement in order to show the final answer from our calculation. So in order to do that, let's provide SOUT tab, and NetBeans will write the long form of this for me. And I will say total cost, : I'll leave a space for neatness and I'll put in the pound sign. Immediately after that, I will show the value of the cost variable. Strictly speaking, there would be no need for the 0.00, but in the interests of making it look convincing, I'll do a 0.00 at the end, and that should give us a working solution to the task. The next sensible thing to do is, of course, to test this. And in order to test it, I'll just actually put in a quick comment there, just to say that this first part was just validation focused. Okay, so let's go up to the original main method. Here we have the method for calling the procedure. So we're going to call the getPrice procedure, and we're going to say that we're purchasing 17 flowers. Now, since this line of code is calling a procedure, it is perfectly acceptable for it to sit on its own as a line of code, because it is an instruction to the computer to carry out a task. And because it doesn't return a result, it's not like we have to do like x becomes equal to, or we have to call the print statement or something like that. That's just not necessary. Other meaningful test data would be, what if we tested it with maybe 0? And what if we tested it with a negative number? So say we stuck in like a -2 or something like that. Okay, so we've got 3 different test cases: the valid test case, the 0 test case, and then the negative invalid data. So let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to use Shift and F6 to run the program, and it says total cost is £47. So just thinking that one through, if you're buying 17 flowers, that means that it breaks up into 2 bunches. 2 bunches cost £16 each. 2 16s are £32. 5 additional flowers means 5 times 3 is 15. So that would add 32 plus 15 would give you 47. And yes, I'm happy with that. Here, when the user provided the number 0, it says no flowers have been bought. It comes up in red because I've used system.err.println inside the Java language. Where are you? Yep, the validation section here, system.err. And that's why it's coming up in red, just to signal that it's an error message. And similarly, when I give it negative number, -2, it said negative values are invalid. So I'm happy overall that this has provided a working solution to the problem.